like this. The pre-MLL draft power rankings were out by Andrew Goldberg, who is a MLL broadcaster. Number one, the Rochester Rattlers going into the draft.
I tell you, it will be tough. The only hole that I see is Mikey Lavelle, or I'm sorry, Kevin Lavelle. You know, you lose Caleb.
And
That's
he
a big hole
retired.
to fill. He did retire, yeah,
And he was, of
he
course,
did actually file
the
his
leading
paperwork. So,
scorer, the leading scorer in the history of Major League Lacrosse. Ended his
yeah,
career in Rochester. I remember last year when he scored the goal to pull ahead and become the leading scorer in the history of the
which
MLL.
is one of those awesome
yeah.
things. We've had so
And
many
I mean, he was
great
critical
players
in the
here.
semifinal game. You know, he was. We wouldn't have made the championship game if Kevin didn't play his heart out in
Right.
that
Absolutely.
semifinal.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
he won that for us. But we got some. I mean, we got some young guys. We got. I mean, look, you got Miles. You got Ty Thompson,
Right.
and you got Jordan Wolf. All
Now,
of those guys now know what MLL expects.
Now, Knabber, this kind of boggled my mind. We had Jody Gage on the show earlier in the year, right after the draft. We asked him. I asked him why he drafted Jeremy Nobles over Miles Thompson for the Knighthawks. Of course, we're talking about. He said that they flat out thought that Jeremy was a better guy. Of course, it turns out that
Yeah.
Jeremy doesn't want to sign. He doesn't want to play indoor this year, so it was a completely lost draft pick. And of course, the players that they traded away, they gave up Palace in part of that deal to get
Yeah,
that higher
that's
draft
just
pick. So it's a complete wash now. I don't understand. And then Miles Thompson goes out and scores a hat trick in his first game with the Minnesota Swarm. I don't understand why they didn't draft him.
that was a kind. Yeah,
I don't get it.
that was dumb.
Well, the thing is, you can only talk to a guy so much. You know, the CBA inhibits how much you can really talk to your draft picks. And if at the very end of the night, if your player decides that he does not want to play across the country from where he lives and works, and again, he's just out of college, so he's starting a new career. Some of the guys who play, they're full time in lacrosse, or they live pretty close to their hometown. Rochester's very lucky to be in a hotbed of lacrosse.
Right.
We have a lot of cities around us that have been playing lacrosse forever. He's a West Coast guy. So, yeah, they might have been able to do some more research and found that out, but
It
I
seems to
love
me
Jeremy
like they
Noble as a
really
pick.
should have, because like you said, knowing that with the distance and that he'd be traveling a lot, it just seemed like it was a risk that was
Right.
just unwise.
As opposed to Miles, who plays for the Rattlers.
Yeah, I mean, it just seemed like a natural choice versus what really seemed like a dumb choice, and we got burned to boot.
And not only that, and we are the Nighthawks are a very predominantly Native American team. A lot of the fans are Native American. The owner's Native American. Miles is Native American, and I just think it would have been a good fit. Obviously, he's doing great in Minnesota.
Well,
They also have a lot of Native
let's
Americans there.
let's put a couple of things in the forefront, though. You nailed it with, yes, the Nighthawks are Native American, but the sport is Native American.
True.
So would you rather
Yeah,
load
exactly.
up one team with a bunch of Native Americans, or would you like to see their success spread across the league?
And I was
Johnny
thinking
Paulus
that
is the
same
man
thing
right
you're
now in
saying.
Vancouver.
Yeah.
Miles Thompson is the man in Minnesota. That's three of, 9 teams in the league
Yeah.
that now have predominant Native American forces.
That's a very
That's a
good
good
point.
point.
Nabber, that's an
as their
excellent
poster
point.
boys.
That's an
Let's
excellent
be
point.
honest. If Miles and Johnny stay in Rochester or come to Rochester, they're under Cody.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're not as good a player as Cody.
I know what you mean.
Cody
That's
is
a good
Kurt's
point.
nephew. That's where the focus is going to be. He's
Right.
going to focus on.
Well,
on
not
his
only
nephew.
that, he's the best player.
And he's number one.
He had 106 points last year, and he's arguably the best player in the world right now in indoor.
Right. But that's my opinion. I think that's why they didn't. I truly think maybe before the end of the season something's going to happen with a trade if Jeremy truly doesn't.
That
want to come to
would be
Rochester.
interesting. Yeah, you know what? Trade him out to Vancouver or something, right?
I
Can you imagine
really,
what if they traded him and got Palos back?
That'd be good.
So Jeremy could play with his brother.
Right.
His
Yeah.
brother plays in Minnesota, so let's get some draft picks back from Minnesota.
Yeah.
We're pretty good usually with the draft picks.
I agreed.
Yeah,
This was
Jeremy
kind of
could've
an
changed his
anomaly
mind.
to have an issue like this.
Yeah, it
over
was weird.
recent years.
It just seemed, like I said, it just seemed odd because
It did seem odd.
we fans of this league know how it works. We know that players have lives and families, and obviously, with John Grant, I mean, he wanted to be out there, and he was one of the few who dedicated to actually being in Rochester, whereas most of them, really don't. So I mean, it depends if you want to travel a lot, versus someone who doesn't. So I just think that kind of we probably should have knew better.
Knabber, we got to let you go in a minute here. We got Ed Trefzger, the play-by-play man of the RIT Tigers, coming up in just a few minutes. Just wanted to talk about one more thing. You might have some input on this. The attendance. Okay, so celebrating Rochester's third consecutive championship. Never been done before in the history of the National Lacrosse League. Never been done in the history of Rochester. The attendance just 6,421 for the home opener.
That's a travesty.
John, I wouldn't go far as calling it a travesty.
Oh my God, I would.
I think that's a little overboard, but it's disappointing.
I think it's horrible because
they usually get more people.
Well, but the thing is, this team has won 3 championships.
The Knighthawks have won 3 straight championships,
and this was the night where they put the banner up and brought the championship out. And you only get that is a travesty. I mean,
I wouldn't call it a travesty. I would say it's disappointing. Now, but I do understand it because we live in Rochester, New York. We are in a minor league city. The Knighthawks and the Rattlers are the only teams we have that play at their respective highest levels of their sport. The tickets for the Knighthawks are $30 and $35 this year. It's a lot of money. If you have a family of 4, it's going to end up costing you $150, $200 once you buy drinks and beer and and food and parking and all that. I think that I love Kurt and Lewis. They've restored the pride of the Knighthawks. Not that it ever really went away, but they've really elevated us to being the most successful lacrosse city without a doubt in the NLL. Okay, but I believe they have outpriced the market.
And I think they're finding that out. I think they're finding that out the hard way. When the newspaper reports those prices, and honestly, if I didn't have season tickets, I would never pay those prices.
I know
some discount way to that's approaching Sabres tickets and Bills tickets.
It really is.
They're paying millionaire players.
Right.
You kind of get that. NLL players are not millionaire players, but you got to realize the arena, everything at that arena went up. So don't think that the lease to be there. There's a reason that the RazorSharks, Lancers, and Knighthawks are all kind of looking at different options for not playing at the BCA. I mean, I've even heard some rumors that, they take
Mark's
a hit.
shaking his head.
But looking at Palafini Arena, where, it's about 5,200 and we're getting 6,200.
Right.
I honestly expected a little bit more, but when I saw that pricing in the newspaper article, I'm like, man, there goes the walk-in. You're not going to get the walk-in.
Right.
And it makes you appreciate, what Buffalo can do all the time. Because nobody in Buffalo can afford Sabres or Bills either. They can only afford Bandits. That's why they pack that place.
It's true,
it's Sports City. They love it. They bring people in from Canada.
Yeah.
It's a major minor market. We're a minor market with major teams, is my opinion.
And
you get 7 teams and trying to buy season tickets for. So
that's a great point. Like in Buffalo, the Bandits in comparison to the other teams in Buffalo, they're cheap, but the Knighthawks in compared to the other teams in Rochester are very expensive. So I think that's going to be
another thing that people forget too is that we're in a city where a lot of people for a lot of years have undervalued the tickets. I mean, with a lot of the giveaways and the fact that it is at a lower level. So when you see a ticket that you don't know anything, most people are like, professional lacrosse, what is that? $35. They don't understand they're seeing the best players in the world. And I think that's something that if we really work on it, like this is the major league. This isn't the minor league. I think people would be more willing to pay that price, but I think part of the problem is people don't see it like that yet.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, the sport in general is not seen as a major force sport.
Well,
I mean, you're always going to be fighting that uphill battle.
Right.
We've been doing it for, 35 years of professional lacrosse now. You've always been trying to crack into that upper 4, and it's just not going to happen. They need to promote it as the next best affordable level of the best athletes in the world.
Knabber, we got to let you go. One last thing. I don't know. We were trying to figure out why the NLL moved their season later this year and the MLL moved their season earlier, now making it virtually impossible for players to play in both leagues, which I think really hurts both leagues. It hurts the fan recognition of the sport of lacrosse in the United States of seeing the same players play indoor and outdoor. Do you have any reason why they're doing that?
I'll be 100% frank here. The MLL and NLL respect each other for what they do. They don't give a crap about what each other does. I'll be 100% honest. They don't.
They do not work together whatsoever.
Scheduling or players or anything like that. Most of the field players do not play indoor, and most of the indoor players, there's a short percentage that play the outdoor game.
There are some still, though.
We see that crossover, but we see that crossover here because we have both leagues.
Right.
Most cities don't have that crossover, and the teams that play there don't care.
But I mean,
Paul Rabel just got traded to Long Island.
Right.
And you'd think it was, oh my God, the end of the world in Boston, but Mohegan Sun, who I think his rights are still with them. They didn't promote it at all, so they don't care.
Yeah. All right, Knabber, we got to let you go. We could talk for another hour about lacrosse. Thank you so much for joining us. Guys, listen to Hawk Talk on blogtalkradio.com/Hawk Talk, and also check out the Knighthawks crew on Facebook. Knabber, thanks again. We'll get in touch with you later this year.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. All right. And that was Knabber. That was lots of interesting lacrosse talk there. Yeah. I don't get the MLL and NLL not working together. It makes zero sense.
I don't either.
If you have a sport that's a niche sport like indoor soccer, you work together. The same thing. The MASL and the USL don't work together at all. No one is working.
It doesn't help anyone.
In this city, the Rattlers and the Nighthawks absolutely ignore each other, act like each other don't exist.
And
the Rhinos and the Lancers ignore each other, act like each other don't exist.
Yeah. Well, I think that the Lancers want to work with the Rhinos, though. I think it's the other way around. The Rhinos don't want to work with the Lancers. And it's kind of understandable a little bit because there are a lot of injuries in indoor soccer. And you got big name players like, J.C. Banks is one of them. You never want to see that kid get hurt when he's playing with the Rhinos.
Right,
I mean, because a lot of injuries and stuff like that. But, of course, you want in order to keep your guys for the Rhinos, if you keep them in Rochester, they have somewhere to work in the off season, then they'll stay, and then guys like us can know who's playing every year. Right. Same guys.
All right, guys, we're going to transition real quick to hockey, college hockey. We are now joined by Ed Trefzger, the play-by-play radio man of the RIT Tigers. Ed, thanks for joining us tonight. You guys just came back from Minnesota. Have you de-thawed yet?
I think we brought the cold weather back.
You did. You actually did. You kind of flew east and brought it with you.
Well, it was funny. We were joking on Saturday that it was short weather because it was about 33 degrees in St. Paul that day, and when we left for the airport early Sunday morning, it was -6. So,
oh, God.
There you go.
Oh, man. Well, you guys, it must have been a fun trip up there to Minnesota playing at the legendary Mariucci Arena. Playing on the big Olympic ice there. RIT playing in the Mariucci tournament, lost to Massachusetts Lowell in the first round 7-3, and then lost. Surprisingly, you guys ended up playing Minnesota in the third place game and took them to overtime despite getting outshot 49-21. And unfortunately, of course, they scored in overtime, but that was you guys almost beat them.
Well, yeah, I think RIT did very well on Saturday. Actually, I think they did pretty well for the most part both days. On Saturday, I think the shot total may be a little deceiving. Not that they weren't actually shots, but RIT was doing a good job after the first period of pushing a lot of the shots out to the perimeter. So even though Mike Rotolo did a terrific job with 46 saves, it was still a very good job defensively, and his defense played pretty well in front of him. Mm-hmm. But overall, you go back to the first couple of years that RIT was a Division I, and they used to talk a lot about moral victories and so forth. And it didn't take very long for Coach Wayne Wilson to say, look, no more moral victories. The fact that RIT was able to skate pretty well with both teams really shouldn't be too much of a surprise, not only because of RIT's improvement, but sort of the leveling off and greater parity in college hockey altogether. But they did. The Tigers did perform pretty well out there.